Welcome to Full-Time Movie Fans. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Daniel, aka Jarvis, which is not a pseudonym or anything like that. Or what's it called? It's not a nickname. That's my last name.
Yeah.
So, aka Jarvis. You can call me Jarvis. Most people do. This is my co-host and friend,
Juror number 13.
Michael, the angriest man I've ever met.
Yeah. One angry man.
One boiling beneath the surface angry man, but mostly above the surface, very unangry.
Yeah.
So what's up with all this anger that you got, bro? No, this is not a.
I got enough anger for 12 men. We're not doing a review this week. We're not talking about a movie. We're just talking about my frustration.
Do you have issues with anger? That's what we're talking about. We're actually going to do a.
It's a therapy session.
Yeah, we're gonna just talk about anger. Everybody struggles with it. No, no, we're not doing that because this is still Full-Time Movie Fans. We are fans of movies here, and so we watch movies and then we talk about them.
That's what happens.
The number one most original YouTube channel that you're gonna come across.
Yeah, you'll never find another podcast YouTube channel.
Yeah,
where they talk about movies. They've watched.
very small slice of the pies.
Yeah,
when you look at demographic wise, podcasts very small slice.
Very small.
Talking about movies also a very small portion of. Yeah. So
well, movies have only been around for like 100 or so years at this point.
So just getting started. Mm-hmm. So when you think about it, it's still very young.
Let me see. Hold on, I can get the exact first.
Oh, he's a very much research guy. But this movie.
Yeah. Okay, so we're 2023. So it's been 108 years. So that movies have been around.
Not too long.
No, not too long at all.
So, but so this is a movie. What we're talking about today is a movie called 12 Angry Men. This is a recommended movie that you recommended, and I had not seen it.
It's a very, very good movie.
It is, and so, but here's the catch. Now, this is something that I think for your more casual, if you're a casual moviegoer, this is not one you're going to necessarily seek out. It's probably not one you've ever heard about, ever. And even what I'm about to say next may turn you off a little bit, but it was made in 1957, correct?
1957.
So,
Henry Ford.
So it's an older movie, black and white. I know that's a turnoff for some people. I grew up watching a lot of black and white TV shows.
Henry Fonda
as a kid. Henry Fonda is in it.
Fonda.
So, but like I grew up watching a lot of like TV Land. Mm-hmm. So a bunch of older shows. My dad watched Andy Griffith's show. Leave It to Beaver, Get Smart, which they made a movie about with Steve Carell, which I actually enjoyed.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of funny.
You also got like the Turner Broadcasting Network, TBN.
Yeah. So a lot of older shows. So I'm not too put off by black and white, but I will have to admit to you, which we didn't really talk about this before, but I have to let you know. For me, it was in the beginning. It was hard for me to watch because I was like, "Oh, it's black and white." Blah, blah, blah. So I had to make a conscious effort. I was like, "Put your phone freaking down and watch this movie." And I got to tell you, I did not regret that decision.
It's worth every minute.
It's worth it.
It's worth every minute.
And so what I'm saying to you, the audience, is that if you're into, like, if you do like movies, and maybe even above the normal type of moviegoer who's very casual, who only goes and sees the big tentpole movies like Marvel movies or something like that, or something that's given a lot of like fanfare or whatever in the media, then you should definitely. I think that I highly recommend watching this movie because to me the plot feels like, which I guess it's weird to say this, it feels like a modern idea. In the sense of it's very much, it's a more mindful movie.
Yes.
It's not just like a Michael Bay, here's tons of explosions and here's awesome CGI. Like it's literally just 12 characters in one room.
Yep.
And I think there's been a lot of great movies that are like that. I mean, the ones that I think of, Quentin Tarantino movies,
Reservoir
Dogs, even the Hateful Eight. It's literally about the characters and what they're going through. Because
what if I told you that this movie was a huge inspiration for both of those.
Then yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
It makes
That's
sense, right?
Yeah, if you know Quentin Tarantino, I think probably one of his more well-known is Django Unchained. I think most people know about that.
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
But yes.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, even
More
me,
newer ones is
yes,
Django, for
that
sure.
a lot, I think, has a bigger audience. Django Unchained. And so, but yeah, so the fact that that's very inspiring, it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I love about it is that it's because there's not a lot of grandiose like locations or tons.
Yep.
It's not a Jason Bourne movie.
It's just a bunch of people talking to each other.
Which is insane that it's so good.
Yep.
Considering it's just people, because it's literally just about the characters and character development, which I personally, I put high on my list of like, if it's a good movie, this is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's so let's get into the meat factory, right? See how the sausage is made real quick.
Oh shoot! Here we are. You're bringing the meat.
I am. I'm schwacking the meat out.
Michael, the meat guy.
I might get a shirt made. So this movie, very near and dear to my heart. Wouldn't you believe, wasn't originally a movie.
Well, how near and how dear would you say?
It's top
on a
10.
scale of
It's
like,
top 10 for me, for
like
sure.
how near? Like when you say this is very near and dear, like are you talking about this is 6 feet COVID distance close, or is this like, hey, like bring it in here for a nice warm hug for 30 seconds kind of near?
This is like when I'm sitting at 2 a.m. trying to write something, and I'm trying to get two characters to understand each other. I go, I got to remember what they did here.
Oh, that's very near.
Very close.
Okay, what about deer though? This is near and near.
Let's be real
are you
honest.
talking
It's
about
not that
white-tailed
deer.
deer? Are you talking about Mother Dearest?
We're talking like white stag.
Okay, I don't actually know much about deer.
That's a cryptid. So, this movie wasn't originally a movie. It started as a stage play. I'm sure that's really easy to believe, seeing as it's in one location. But it was a stage play, and I don't remember who wrote it. I think it's the same person who wrote the screenplay. Let me just check real quick. No, it looks like he adapted it from the screenplay. But it was a screenplay originally. And the screenplay is also called 12 Angry Men. And the way that stage respects the author different than movies do is like vastly different. In movies, you barely know who wrote the movie. You know who directed it. Right. In stage plays, if somebody wrote the script, they wrote the script, right? It's a stage play by, and that's a very common practice. Even the way that stage plays are written is different from screenplays, because screenplays you keep most direction out of it. You don't go, this character moved over here, or this person smirked at this person. You don't do that. In stage plays, you write everything. Basically the rule of thumb for stage plays is the writer is God, and you have to listen to what they say. And it is the director's interpretation of the script that is the most important thing. In movies, if a writer puts in direction, they're a piece of shit and they think they know better. And so the director gets to override whatever was written in the script to do what their vision is for the movie. This is one of those that didn't do that. This is one of those that the dude basically took the stage play and went, okay, so here's the screenplay. And they listened to every single thing that was there, because the characters are so fleshed out and so well thought out. And already, like, they're already there. You know, there's nothing that you need to change.
Yeah, there's one thing that's interesting is like there's no flashbacks. There's no like flash forwards, like there's not like 13 years ago or 2 weeks ago or
you get
2 weeks from now.
The only information that you get of the the whole story, for people who haven't watched it, which I'm sure there's many, the whole story is essentially there are these 12 jurors who just finished their court day, the last of the court days, and they're going to go make their decision.
Well, they don't even show.
Nope, they start in the room.
Court case, yeah.
They start in the room, and all of the information that we as the watcher get is whatever information they retained from the court case, which is super interesting because we get to sit there and make our own decision of what we would choose along with them. And it's very obvious from the beginning. They go, oh, well, here's the knife that was caught at the scene and caught on the kid. The kid killed the person. Right? Open and shut case. Great. I got to go to baseball in like an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got tickets to the game, so we got to go. Then you start out and you're like, yeah, a pretty open and shut case. Cool. Yeah, sounds good to me. Convict the kid. Get to death row right now.
Well, yeah, the kid. It's the kid killed his dad. I think it was what it was supposedly.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, and then there was some witnesses and there's some stuff, but that's, to me, this is a great movie that is very much show not tell.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, I get it that some movies require some, okay, we're going to tell you what happened before so you're up to speed.
Yeah.
This is very much the people are talking, and as the movie goes on, some of the blanks get filled in as you kind of see,
and you're like,
the experiences. Yeah, the experiences through each individual. And it's not, to be honest with you, I wouldn't say. So I think there's a fine line between being subtle and being very direct. And I think it is on that line.
Oh yeah,
perfectly for most of, like, when you see certain things, you're like, oh, okay, well, that's what this guy's issue is. And we'll get into some of those things because there's, I think, at least two that are very, like, okay, these guys have big issues.
Yeah.
That are not related to the case, but you can see very clearly. But pardon my cough, guys. I'm just, weather's all acting weird and my body doesn't know how to deal with it. But so these guys, these 12 guys are in, they're in deliberations.
Yep. And it's like within the first like 5 minutes, I think they're like, great, we all have to, so the whole story is a social commentary on the United States court system, right? And how brutal it is that it's, when you think about it, you have to have 12 people totally in agreement on something, right?
Yeah.
And that's like, in theory, that's like, yeah, getting 12 people to agree on something, yes or no, is very difficult. But then there's social pressure, and there's some people who are a little bit more hard-headed than other people. And there's like bull in the china shop types that are like, why do you believe differently than me? You're wrong. Right. And that's very scary to think about.
Well, yeah. And a thing that this movie touches on, which we did talk about this, is that this movie can be remade, like the bones of it, and made into a very good modern movie.
But you have to be very, very careful.
Yeah, not a word for word copy, because they did that.
Yes,
in 1996 or 7, I think.
And it did not have the same effect.
No, it was not very good. I thought I would watch that one as well to get a kind of, and it was a word for word, except it wasn't as good. I got excited when I saw Tony Danza, but I was like, no, but it just didn't work. So
no.
But the thing is, you got to understand that there's also, it addresses cultural bias. It expresses personal experiential bias. And those are two of the characters that I was talking about.
Yeah.
There's two characters that you can see are very they're just predisposed to vote a certain way based off of how they view the world.
Yeah.
And one is reflectant of the times, which
of course,
to be honest with you, and we'll talk
it's
more
important.
about it.
It's an important thing to have.
Yeah, but it's also,
for sure.
and it's also like, what is this? How many years are we removed from that? 50, over 70 years?
I think so.
At least 70, just under 70 years from when this movie was made. And that cultural bias is still extremely relevant today.
Yeah.
Extremely. And then as far as the other one, I get it. I think that might even be more relevant today as well. It's involving relationships between parents and children.
Yep.
So still relevant. I mean, it casts a wide net in talking about important things that are still relevant today. That's what I mean is like this movie can be remade and not a word for it. I don't think it should do that. But you can bring a new trial, a new
Yeah, or
stuff
it
into
could
it.
be an entirely different situation. Like I told you, I was briefly a part of a very small movie about the Challenger disaster, the space shuttle that blew up with the. It was the first one that they were taking a civilian to space, and it was going to be called Angry Men because it was about the engineers of the Challenger disaster going into the room to talk about what happened right after it happened, which in theory sounds really good.
Right.
It fell short, and I did not get to be a part of it. But needless to say, and I'm sorry if you ever see this, Nathan, you making something like hands down is super difficult, and I do not fault him at all for it. I just remember the first like 2 conversations I had with him was, hey, I would like to be a part of this and help you out. And he was like, great, I need you to scout locations. And then I read the script and I said, actually, I think we need to do a lot more work on making sure that this hits the way that you want it to. And he's like, no, we're going to go into production. I was like, okay, have fun. I don't want to be part of this. So it's another one of those, like, the idea is great, but it fell short. So
and
it's not there yet.
And I just want to jump in and say again, because I think this is very important. Like, whenever you are reviewing something, I think it's real easy to be very critical.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is great for you because you understand to a higher degree than I do the difficulties into actually making something.
Oh, yeah. It's
So
awful.
So like the thing is, I always try to be careful. Like I just don't want to sit and be like just this critic. Like, so here's the thing. Like I think I'm a very creative person, but I never had any real creative outlets. So I never really like got into anything creative. But my mind is just very like I can think through, process things.
Yeah,
and, like
just
have a lot of
how I do it
ideas.
differently.
Yes, exactly. So I think that that's part of my creativeness, but I don't have any outlet. So I understand that it is a lot more difficult to create something than to critique something. So that being said,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
continue. Great story, great idea, but
Yeah.
execution is a lot harder to pull off than
Yes.
just having a great idea. Great ideas are everywhere.
And as much as I'd like to sit here and think that this is like a full, this is not an everything everywhere all at once. You can't take this and change different parts of the scenes and it'd still be the same movie, right? You can't at the beginning of the movie show some hand stabbing some other person and then you go to the jurors, because it ruins the movie,
Yeah.
right? You can't. It's very fragile, and they did a really good job of like keeping the fragility of the movie intact with the characters, because they kept with the source material and they said these people are in the room. The only thing that you know is in this room.
Yeah.
And the whole crux of the purpose of this movie is that reasonable cause, right?
Or reasonable doubt.
Reasonable doubt. Yes.
Is there enough
Yes.
reasonable doubt
Yeah.
for us to?
Yeah. The court system urges jurors to make their decision as long as they do not have a reasonable doubt otherwise.
Right.
And 11 of the 12 jurors at the very beginning were like, great, yep, closed case, it's done, we're good. And one of them was like, no, I think there's something up here. And slowly, over lots of arguing, one at a time, they all changed their votes.
Yeah, that is for sure the whole core of this movie is that yes, it's about listen here. The one guy who votes no, I don't think he's that they do a guilty or not guilty vote. He's the only one.
Yep.
And he's very from the beginning, he's just like, look, I get it. We all have lives outside of here. But while we are here, someone's life is in the balance, and we need to take it seriously. Because what we decide could be the end or the beginning, technically, of this person's life.
Yep.
And he says, like, and I think that that deserves some deliberation instead of us just being like, okay, we all agree. And as he goes and says, like, here's where I find some reasonable doubt. And as he goes course by course throughout this thing, we start to see, like, wow, this guy's making a lot of sense.
Yep.
And a lot of other people start to agree with him because they're like, okay, yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yep.
And that's how we learn about the case is as they discuss it, which is fantastic.
And one of my favorite things about this, and for people who have tried to remake it in their own way, have fallen short on, in my opinion, is by the end of the movie, we don't know if the kid did it.
Yeah.
All we know is that there are doubts.
Yeah.
And you have a doubt. You're like, I don't know if he did. And I would not be able to vote guilty because I don't know.
Yeah.
But he could have. He definitely could have, but we don't know.
Yeah, and there's enough.
Which is great.
Yeah. Yes, it's because that's the thing. It's like, I've seen a lot of movies, and you've probably seen a lot more than me. And I know for a fact that Clint has seen a lot more than me. Because we talk about movies, and sometimes he's just like, I can't believe you haven't seen that. I brought it up to him. I was like, oh yeah, next week we're doing 12 Angry Men. He's like, you haven't seen that movie? I was like, when would I have ever seen this movie? Like, I was like, I watched free movies that were on TV, on TBS, and like whenever they would come on, or like, a basic cable stuff. I was like, that's the only time I like really watched movies as a kid. Like, where would I have seen this movie? And so he was kind of like, okay, I guess, but he was surprised that because it is, it has some very strong foundations that I think a lot of movies built off of that. I can see.
This is one of those, like, I'm gonna take this and do it like this. Yep.
Like when you see similar
like Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, when you see similar structure, yeah, because like we talked about Reservoir Dogs and The Hateful Eight, like, it's very so focused on the characters and their interactions that it's so good. So to me, like when I look at just Quentin Tarantino movies, Hateful Eight is one of my favorites. Like I watch it. It's very long, but it is very good in my opinion. Because each character is so unique and so interesting, you know what I mean? In their own ways. And so it's the same with this because you can clearly see there's one guy, and I'll bring it up now, is, you know, so the case ends up being about a son, and he's accused of killing his dad. And one of the things that they reveal in their deliberations is someone heard him and his dad getting into an argument. They're saying that they heard him say that he was going to kill him. Like, I'm going to kill you. And the son saying that to his dad. And then there were some eyewitnesses who saw him running away from the scene, blah, blah, blah. But one of the jurors, we see him talking about his own son.
Yeah.
And he says his son was ungrateful and he tried to do everything for him and they don't talk anymore.
Yep.
And at first it's kind of more subtle. He's just looking at a photo of his son or something. And then he kind of just has some... He just says some things that relate to like, oh, kids are ungrateful. I never would have disrespected my dad in that way. Blah, blah, blah. So that is one of the characters that we see that's like, okay, you have very personal biases against this situation. Yep. And we see that because he's so staunch and adamant about this kid deserves to be punished because he does not have a good relationship with his son. Right. And I think one of the, hopefully I'm not giving too much away in our conversation, but there's, as we go to discuss the, you know, as we're talking about this movie, but the thing about it, I think that I absolutely love is that if you're going to set something up to be able to remember that and pay it off a little bit later, that was, his character was something that did that. I think. And so like, as we talk about like movies, we don't talk about shows really, but you've seen Arrested Development?
Yeah.
One of my favorite shows ever. So great. Before it got canceled. some of the smartest writing. But one of the things that I love about it is, bro, they have jokes and things that are set up in early seasons that don't pay off until later seasons. Like a full season will go by and they'll still make references to things that happen. And I'm just like, this is so freaking genius. There's another movie I was thinking of where they do that. They're very mindful of is it a movie we talked about? They're just very mindful about what they did and the stuff that they do, they pay off. And I can't
Training Day? Huh? Training Day?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it was Training Day, because it's like everything that happens is important and they reference it. Like, it doesn't start off like big in the beginning, but it is at the end. He says, hey, like in the beginning, everybody's calling him a rookie. Or the fact that he says, hey, don't ever come in here without me, or you'll get killed, and talk about his neighborhood. There's a lot of things that it's just like, it's seemingly small. Even Roger, the first time they meet him. If you haven't seen our episode on Training Day, go watch the movie first, then watch that. But when they meet Roger, like, there's a payoff later that you're like, oh crap.
Yep.
This is the same thing. And I was just like, for me, I thought, like most people, I think a normal logical line of thinking is like, okay, things, as time goes on, things are getting better, right? Look at technology, right? We're on freaking YouTube. Hey, everybody, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. But like,
smooth.
Yeah, I know. Sorry to throw it in there. But like, look at this. We've got microphones. We've got a decent little setup here. We have the internet. We have like, as the people before us didn't have these things. Yeah. And like, even when it comes to movie making, I mean, you look at CGI and like the new Avatar with water, like CGI is insane. Like, and all the stuff that they do that are groundbreaking and stuff when it comes to movie making. So for me, living in 2023, going back and watching a movie from 1957, I was very impressed with the attention to detail and the strongness of the core story. Yeah. Like, that's what we talked about with Everything Everywhere at Once, is no matter how many crazy things are going on around this family, it's about their family and them dealing with their unique struggles as Asian Americans, as a mother, father, a husband and wife, husband and daughter, or father and daughter, mother and daughter, grandpa is like all those things. This is one of the things that still there's a core thing, and they don't deviate from, which I love. It shows focus on the story that needs to be told. I think some movies, it seems like it has a clear, strong direction to go on, and then as you go on, you're like, whoa, what's this movie about? Like, you know what I mean? And this one, especially, like, I want to speak directly to that father-son relationship. Later on, it pays off later, because that's a big point of contention, and that a lot of people are like, this kid is guilty. She heard him say that he was going to kill his dad. And what happens? His dad ends up dead, right? Well, guess what? Mr. Guy that doesn't have a great relationship with his kid gets so angry at the guy who from the beginning was like not guilty, that he gets so mad at him that he's like, I'm gonna kill you. Yeah. And then
he's like,
everybody kind of shuts up, and then he kind of realizes then he kind of realizes, like, oh, well, I guess you can be angry and say something and not mean it. Yeah. Which goes back to, in everybody's mind, you could see everybody just wheels turning, like, oh shoot, wait. That's what they said the kid said. Like, do we really think that this guy is going to kill the other guy? No, we do not. And it all brings that, well, now there's reasonable doubt. Just because someone says something doesn't mean that they're willing to go through with it. We've all said ridiculous things in heights of emotion, anger, frustration, depression, sadness, whatever the case may be. We've all said some things that we're not serious about, right? That we can say, okay, well, obviously I didn't mean that. I'm sorry, Yeah. And that was one of those moments that I think was so good that it paid off, is that, hey, this is such a big, important part of the case. And then you hear this guy in this deliberation say the same thing, and just proving the guy who says not guilty in the beginning's point of like, okay, look, there's got to be enough reasonable doubt here. I thought that was so great.
It's always fun so this is definitely a character movie, right? This is not a big old spectacle. Like, there's not an alien invasion happening outside of the courtroom. It's so fun to watch these characters that are so well established from the beginning, but they also get like picked apart, right? They get to express themselves in the way that they want to, and then they get challenged. Each of them, they
Yeah.
all like no. There is nobody who is left unhit by their competitors. They're just punching each other from across the table, and it's really fun to watch. It's one thing to have a good like character with really strong convictions, right? That's like every anime protagonist is like I'm the number one and I'm
Yeah.
never going to be beat down, and then watching them get beat down and you're like, yeah, that is the human experience. And watching each one of these people who are like, no, you're wrong, my convictions are correct, we're going to get out of here, you're going to change your mind, and then watch all of them change their mind is just so good.
Which, I think, and again, let me reiterate, like, if you don't watch a lot of movies and you don't care to expand your movie knowledge, this is going to be one that you're going to either try to watch and you're going to be like, it's too slow, I don't get it. Or you're going to see black and white, you're going to be turned off, you're going to be on your phone. I'm telling you that if you do commit to watching this movie, we'd love to hear your thoughts and comments, obviously, in the comment section. But like, it is such a good movie because I think it expresses something that's very important, I think, in life, is that we have to understand that there are other people in this world beside us that have similar and very different experiences. And just because someone experiences something different, has a different mindset, doesn't necessarily mean that they're wrong or you're wrong, or they're right or you're right. But what it does require, especially in this, one thing I think we can take from this movie as a learning experience, is that we should be able to interact with people who think and are different than us, and have enough empathy to stop for a moment,
Yep.
fully hear somebody out and hear their train of thought, and be like, okay, is what they're saying reasonable? Is it possible? And like to start to understand people through their lens. And it's harder for some than others. And it's depending on the different things. Like my mother's, Korean. I was born in America. So there's a lot of differences there that I just don't understand about how she thinks and how she does things.
Yeah.
But, and some of those we can reconcile, some of those we can't. But what I'm saying is, like, I think it's important. It shows the importance in the movie, and I think it also shows in real life that we as people should be able to discuss differences and listen to other people's differences, especially when it comes to the justice system. Like, there's so many movies about how ineffective and how wrong our justice system can be.
Yeah.
As many,
super critical.
as many safeguards and things as there are. I think I literally watched, maybe we'll do this one someday, Law Abiding Citizen.
Haven't seen it.
What? Okay, well then you need to watch it. It's very interesting. So see, like, yeah, I've seen movies he hasn't seen. So Law Abiding Citizen is very good, but it's very much about the justice system as well, and how unfair it is and things like that. So maybe we could do that one next time, but maybe soon. But it's good. Jamie Foxx and Gerard Butler, I think. So, but anyways, it's important, like, when we are dealing with something that serious, could affect somebody else's life, we should be a little bit more empathetic. Yeah. And I think that's what that one guy came in with. There was another guy in the room who, he grew up on the poor side of town. He said, hey, I grew up, I understand this kid struggles, like, in a real way. And he could relate to that. But I think initially he was also one of the ones that voted guilty right off the bat.
Of course. Yeah.
So,
well, if you think about it, if you're sitting in a courtroom, I think it's like a 2-3 week long process. You got to sit there the entire time, no entertainment. You're just looking at a case. And then you're finally like, great, once we make a decision, we get to go home.
yeah.
And that's also part of the problem, to be honest. It's like, you got to make a quick decision. You don't. There's sometimes like weeks and weeks of deliberation that need to take place to actually come to a conclusion. that all being said, this is one of those movies that I keep in my back pocket to get people who are like, I don't watch old movies, to be like, you do. You do in just many different ways.
You just don't realize that a lot of the movies you watch are based off of these stories that have already been told in a very unique and great way.
Yeah, Tarantino's whole career, and he'll attest to it himself. People will be like, "How do you come up with such creative ideas?" He's like, "I don't. I steal everything, shot for shot. There is not a single thing. There's not a single shot or a thought idea that I have done in my movies that I did not take from something else that I've watched,
that you've seen." Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the thing is like, very rarely do you find an idea that's truly unique.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you even look at a movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once. It has things that I'm sure have been taken from other things. It in and of itself is a very unique creation and a very unique experience. But I mean, everything. I am one to believe that there aren't hardly any, if any, new, completely just like never thought of before ideas. I'm a skeptic when it comes to that.
I do have some fun little conjecture for this. It's actually somebody made an entire program system. It's called the Library of Babel that they've created. It's an online thing. You can go look it up. It's actually like live and active right now. It is every single string of words that could ever be put together is in that website and has pre-existed before you would like type it in to go find it. There's an index. It's been like they mathematically proved that it is everything that could have ever been written or ever will be written all in one place at the same time. So statistically speaking, you will never have an original idea.
So you're not special.
It's already been done.
Somebody's done it before you.
Literally has already
and probably
been done.
someone in Asia is doing it better than you anyways.
Correct. So fun little fact. You will never, ever write anything or make anything that is unique and original.
Yeah.
And guess what? That's okay.
That's okay.
That's like kind of the whole human experience is to share things that have meaning and have relevance to each other.
Yeah, just because it's never been said or done before or whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that everyone has experienced that. So
right.
When you connect with words or an idea or something and you decide to express it, it doesn't mean that the people around you or anywhere else has experienced it. So it may seem like a new thing, it just really isn't.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it's not worth sharing or saying or expressing in the way that you express it through art, music, poetry, writing, whatever it is that you do. So we don't want to discourage you from that, but
it shouldn't be discouraging.
Yeah, it's just a factual.
More people have seen Reservoir Dogs than they have 12 Angry Men. And therefore, more people have seen 12 Angry Men than Reservoir Dogs.
It's
just how it is.
It's a very interesting thing, how that all works out.
Yeah.
So, but when it comes to this particular movie, I think that it's very good because I think it touches also on socioeconomic, right? Because when they're deliberating, they talk about that side of town or that group of people. So I believe that they took socioeconomic, so poor versus richer neighborhoods. They talk about, I think, race. I think they throw in the word like those kind of people or those people. They say that. So obviously you fill in the blanks. They're talking about there's some racism going on there. You know, there's a lot of ideas of classism, racism, socio-political stuff. Again, there's personal, domestic situations. You have in this group of people, you have very loud extroverts. Mr. I got to go to the baseball game guy. And then
spoilers, he does not make it.
No, he does not make it. And then you have guys who are very quiet, which I think was one of the guys who was like, he was actually one of the guys.
He was one of the first ones to switch over.
Yeah. He was the one that was like he grew up with. He's like, I grew up around them and those people, and he's like, that was my experience. And so like, I think he had a little more empathy, and he was one who was swayed early on.
Yeah.
He was a very quiet type of guy. He's not a fighter. He's just a keep his head down kind of guy.
Get the whole spectrum.
Dude.
12 people.
Yeah, and it's a very good. I get why you and even Clint was like, dude, you have to see this movie
it's so
because
good.
it's like, I guess I don't know anything about like film school and things like that, but I feel like that's a movie that would be for homework that you got to watch in film school. I would imagine.
It was.
So
it was one of the, well, I watched it in high school because my film teacher was also my high school director for theater. Spoilers, I'm a theater kid. Converted theater kid. And
very important.
And it's actually more a theater thing to be like, hey, 12 Angry Men is a show. I wanted to do that show when I was in high school theater, but let's be real, there's no group of 12 teenagers that could ever pull that off. But it's a show that I really, really wanted to do because the movie was so impactful. Is like, more people need to experience this, especially nowadays when everybody feels like we're at each other's throats. We've always been at each other's throats. We're always going to be at each other's throats. But what we can do to change that is the understanding of each other, like you said. And so it's a timeless classic, as we see a lot for some reason.
Well, yeah, there are just certain ideas. There are certain things about the humanity and the human condition that you're not gonna age out of, so to speak. Like those things. Like when I watched this, I was like, and I told you as soon as I was done watching, I was like, you could literally just remake this movie today in a different way. Obviously, you don't want to do the
change the dates and times
thing and do a word for word, but like you could change the scenario, you could change, but like the things that they're talking about, the things that each of those individuals in that room were struggling with are still real and relevant today.
Oh yeah.
I think that those guys being in the 50s were a little bit kinder than what people in a courtroom today.
Absolutely.
There would be a lot more cursing and like, hey, don't you yell at this older guy because you need to have respect for our elders. Like,
that was fuck that guy.
Yeah, that was one of those things that I saw.
Absolutely, get him out of here.
How many times we got to teach you this lesson, old man?
Yeah, exactly. The future's now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I still think that the things that they're talking about, things that they're dealing with, and the conversations they're having are extremely relevant, even in today's.
Well, there was another thing that I wanted to bring up that you probably aren't super aware of. Have you ever watched The Crucible? Okay, so The Crucible is another movie that was adapted by a play by Arthur Miller. You know about the Salem witch trials, right?
Yes.
Where they would be like, that woman's a witch, and then they just go kill her because they couldn't prove or not prove otherwise.
Yeah.
This is another one of those very reminiscent.
Like if you throw her into the lake and she floats.
Yeah, then she's a witch.
Yeah.
But you have to tie a rock to her.
Yeah.
To see if she floats. Yeah. That kind of stuff.
That's a movie reference.
So Arthur Miller wrote The Crucible, which is about the Salem witch trials, right?
Yeah.
It's about the proving of whether or not this person is guilty of something that can't be proven.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, 12 Angry Men was based off of The Crucible. And The Crucible was not based off of the Salem witch trials. The Crucible was based off of something that was happening in the early 1920s, 1930s in Hollywood, where I'm sure somewhere in history class, somewhere you learned about the Red Scare, where people would shout like, hey, this person's a communist, and then they would get blacklisted and interrogated by the FBI. Well, Arthur Miller was in the middle of all of that. Arthur Miller was one of the people that people were trying to get convicted of being a Russian communist spy to ruin their careers. Hollywood actually had what they called the blacklist, which had like Charlie Chaplin on it and a bunch of other like really high, like famous people.
Successful people, yeah.
Yeah, that they wanted to get out of Hollywood for whatever reason. It was just a really easy way to get rid of people you didn't like. And Arthur Miller wrote The Crucible about the Salem witch trials to imitate exactly what was happening in the moment
Yeah.
with actual reality. And it was that's another one of my favorites. Another one of those like, hey, prove that this person's guilty. You can't. You can't prove it, even though everybody's shouting and trying to prove that
Hey,
everything otherwise.
it's not what you saw, it's what you can prove.
It's not what you saw, it's what you can prove.
Training Day reference.
That's right. Exactly. And so it's really cool to see how each of these things like
Or it's not
can
what you
mirror
know.
and imitate each other.
It's not what
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Yeah.
And so The Crucible is another one of those really good play to movies that imitates the exact same concept of the idea of understanding other people around you instead of running in fear of them,
Yeah.
or convicting them for convenience. So it's kind of cool. I wanted to bring that up so that you could know about that too. The Crucible is really good too. Not as good as 12 Angry Men, I would say.
Yeah.
But The Crucible really like set good parameters for, I guess, this genre as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. Art imitating life.
Art imitating life.
Imitating.
Yeah. And then Monty Python did a whole thing about witches in
that was a
Monty
reference
Python
there.
and the Holy Grail. Yeah. It's yeah,
Bring out your dead.
absolutely.
Yeah, Monty Python is a whole other thing that's very good. So I was introduced to Monty Python as a teenager.
To bring a really awkward end to this episode, I'm going to tell you a bit about film history. You ready?
Okay.
The editor, you can keep this one in or leave it out or use it as the little spoiler for the beginning. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. The first feature-length film that was ever made and played in a movie theater was called Birth of a Nation. And Birth of a Nation is an American movie about how the brave, heroic white men saved the United States from an upheaval of the entire system of slavery by the complete extinguishing of the black people.
Thank goodness for the brave white men.
Thank God for them. And I still think to this day, it's the worst thing about film history that could have ever happened.
I mean, history in general.
That's true.
Like
that is
a
true.
real life thing. Like white people are the best and black people are the worst.
Yeah,
Still,
I feel like it was a great way to tie in all of this. Everything's being prosecuted,
dude,
against understanding of each other.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'll say this, to end it off, is this that like it doesn't matter who you are or where you are or what you believe or how you feel about yourself. Like, the commonality that we all share is that we're all human beings and we're alive and living in this world.
Yeah.
And like spending your time trying to force people to think the way that you do, it's not worth it. I think it's about just treating everyone else. It's the golden rule, right? Treat others how you would want to be treated.
Yeah.
And it's about love and empathy and it's not even necessarily about understanding. Like, I don't have to understand fully your situation to be empathetic to it and to care for you as a human being. And like, it doesn't matter about your race. It doesn't matter about your gender. It doesn't matter about, how much money you have or don't have in the bank. Like, the truth of the matter is that we're all living this world together.
Yep.
And we could all help each other or we could all hurt each other. And to be honest with you, these days, and maybe it's just the news, but I think there's a lot more people hurting each other than helping each other. You find in real life small pockets of people and communities of people that are about helping each other, and that's great. And I hope that if you're out there and you feel that kind of way, you feel marginalized or you feel unimportant, I hope you know that you are important and your life is important and you are valuable. And sometimes it's unfortunate, but sometimes a lot of people say happiness is your own, and I like to find and to deal with. I get that, but also sometimes you have the power to influence somebody else's happiness or their well-being, and hopefully we're about that as people, that we would want to help people more than we would want to hurt people. And I definitely in my life I've learned that like I want to be told if I'm doing something wrong immediately. If I'm doing something that's is hurtful or harmful, I want to be called out immediately so that I can stop that behavior if it's hurtful to someone. But you're important, you're loved, and to be honest with you, like this is to be honest with you, this is what I get out of movies too. Is it helps me understand people, helps me understand the climate and the culture that I'm living in, and that movie is I just felt even though it was black and white, even though it has those weird old timey shooting things like where we talked about where they'll do the close up and it'll only have the light on the eyes for dramatic effect and they're just staring off into the distance as they whatever what they're alluding to, but it's literally just the light right on their eyes and everything else is dark and it's all up close. That's kind of an old timey thing I think for dramatic effect in movies, but it's still relevant that we do have power to help or hurt people, and we should be able to recognize when we have that power, and we should want to be like the guy that says, hey, look, right or wrong, I think that there's reasonable doubt, and like we should give the benefit of the doubt if we can. And I think that's important to anybody, and I think that's towards each other, towards family, towards friends, whatever the case may be, if we can. If we can't, well, then we hope justice is served, right? So, anyways, it's a fantastic movie, 12 Angry Men.
We are the world. We are the children.
Exactly. Shall we hold hands?
Yeah. Here, as we say our goodbyes.
Hold hands with us in the comments and through likes and subscriptions. Guys, hopefully you have a good time with us as we do with you. Leave a comment. Tell us if you want to watch the movie, if you have watched the movie, or if you kind of just like look up a trailer. It's the 1957 one, not the 1997 or 5 or whatever it is.
Comment your favorite juror.
Yeah, do not watch that. We want to hear what you think about the concept of the movie, the things that you learned from it, what you just thought about it as a whole. I get it. If you're younger, the harder I think it's going to be to watch a black and white movie. The way they talk is a little different.
If you can give it like 20 to 30 minutes, you'll be in.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. We're going to go. We're going to keep holding hands after the cameras are off. But
yeah,
guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Until next time, I don't know what we're going to do. Michael and I are going to discuss it off camera. We'll figure something out. Hopefully you join us next week for our next movie. And as always, I hope your day is everything you dreamed it'd be and more. And we look forward to seeing you next time. All right. Bye.
Kill your dad.
No, don't
kill your dad. Don't kill your dad.
Hey, full-time movie fans, thanks for hanging out with us. Hope you had a good time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment. We want to hang out and discuss the movie with you. So don't forget to do that below. Have a good one. I hope your day is everything you dreamed it'd be and more.